Okay, all. I just want to show you the best way to dissect this pig. It's gonna help you a little bit to get you started. Okay. So let me first draw. And I usually draw pretty well, as you can see with all my art therapy. But when it comes to humans and animals, they become a little bit more like stick figures. All right. So let's say this is going to be our so-called pig. And you're going to lie it down on the on your tray. Let's see, something like this. Again, I'm sorry for it being so looks deformed, right? um, and to make note of it, there's a little squiggly tail, right? So you're lying it down. This is the belly side up, right? You got your little, I guess the eyes would be over here, right? Kind of look like the ears are over here, and so forth, right? And then he's happy, right? So we'll make a little smiley face. Okay, so you see it. All right. Anyway, so you're gonna have this umbilical cord over here, and I don't want you to cut that umbilical cord because we're gonna use that. It's coming out someplace around there. All right. And the best way to go about doing this, and I'll do it in red here. What you want to do is you're going to make an incision someplace down here. Just take your scalpel and just stab in there. Try to do this, I guess maybe over the sink or so, or in the dish. You're going to have a lot of juice coming in out of here. Okay, you're going to make an incision here and put your finger in there until you get into an open cavity, and you'll feel around. You'll feel this open cavity, and then you're going to see a lot of juice coming out of here. So you might want to do this over the sink to just get to squeeze out all the juice, because the juice is going to kind of get in your way and doing all this. Okay. Then what you're going to do is this, and this is a surgical technique to do this. You're going to take the scissors. Everything else is pretty much a scissor or blunt probe situation. You'll be using techniques with that. You aren't going to be using much of the scalpel for that little incision there. So what you're going to do is to do this to make sure you're not going to cut anything inside. This is the technique to do. You're going to put your scissors in here. All right, so let's say this is my scissors. And I'm going to put one end of my scissor in there, but I want you to also take your other finger and I want you to put it in the same hole that the scissors is in. And when you start cutting, all the organs will be underneath your finger here, so that you're cutting above your finger, so that your finger is actually the divider between the scissors and all the organs that are inside the pig. If you didn't put your finger there and you're cutting, some of those organs could be there and you'll be cutting right through them. So this is, your finger is going to be a guide so that the scissors is going to guide it, cut anything. So as you move the scissors forward, your finger's going to follow the scissors so that you're going to prevent yourself from cutting anything down below. I'm hoping that makes sense, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to cut, once this incision here, you're going to make an incision going this way as best as you could. Try and stay very close to bones that are over here, all right? All right? So you want to get as far low as you can. And once you make that incision this way, then you're going to make this incision going up the abdomen. Again, keeping your finger underneath that scissor so you're not cutting any intestines or liver and whatnot. I want that umbilical cord to stay intact. You're going to get to the umbilical cord and you're going to cut around that. And then you're going to keep your finger in there. You're going to get to a point where you're going to go back up, but you're going to hit something. Your finger won't go further. What is it that you're hitting in this area right here? You can't go further inside. The diaphragm, exactly. I want you to try and keep that diaphragm intact, okay? So as soon as you get your finger and you hit that diaphragm, then you're going to make an incision going down this way and then down this way. So what you created was two doors over here that once you did this, you can now open this way. Okay, does that make sense? You're going to be opening it. Kind of like if you ever had those little box cereals, you make that little incision and you open up the box. If you're going camping and stuff with the box of cereal, you open it that way. Okay. So we're not going to spend any time, at least for the first week, dissecting the pig here because that's below the diaphragm. But in order to get it up to here, we had to get to this point here. Okay. All right. So now what you're going to do is that you're going to make an incision a little bit, maybe like a half an inch or maybe a quarter inch above this horizontal line. And you're going to take your scissors and pierce it right about there. And then, until you get your finger in there, you're going to make an incision going down this way, and then with your finger underneath, you're going to make an incision going down this way. So this here in between is going to be your intact diaphragm. Okay? Then you got to go up. Now you can't go in the middle as you did over here because there is a bone that is pretty thick that is right there. What bone is that? Sure, your chest plate, your sternum. So you're going to go off the side a little bit. Doesn't matter, left or right, it doesn't matter. But you're going to take your scissors and you're going to go off and you're going to make an incision as high as you could. Again, keeping your finger in there. Now be careful because as you make this incision this way, you're going to be cutting through some of those bones, the ribs. You're going to cut right through them. They're thin enough that the scissors will be able to cut through them. All right? Be careful. When you cut through them, the ribs where you cut through, they're now like little needles where you cut through them. So be careful with that. You might not be able to get your finger in here as much as you did over here because there's a lot of soft tissue. When you're dealing with the ribs over here, just be careful. You might not want to put your finger in there if they seem to be too sharp, those ribs, right? You don't want to pierce your finger, let alone tear your gloves. Okay, so my suggestion is don't use your finger when you deal with this. Just try and stay as much superficial as you could, cutting through those ribs, and you go all the way up to the neck area. Okay. Then you're going to make an incision going down this way and down to this way. I'm sorry, this is not really drawn to scale. So what if I do this? It's a little bit better. It's a little better. All right. So you're going to go up like this as high as you could, and then you're going to make an incision that way and incision that way. Okay. Now, what you can do, you just create it similar to this, but a smaller one, two doors, and you'll be able to open it this way. Now, you will, don't get too squeamish about this, but you will, as you do this, you're going to crack open all those ribs. You'll hear them, okay? You'll hear them, but crack them open. It's okay, because you want to have it so that the doorways are all open so that you have full exposure of all the organs and vasculature inside the chest. And what will be staring out in front of you is this big glandular thing that is going to be the thymus. Do make sure you see that, okay? So you're going to open this up over here. You're going to open up over here. We're going to spend next week more about this, but this week we're going to dissect here. So we're going to deal with blood vessels above the diaphragm for week 1 and blood vessels below the diaphragm in week 2. Okay? You'll need to, when we get into week 2 with the blood vessels of the lower extremity, so below the diaphragm, you are going to need to dissect this out a little bit more because you got to get a little bit of the blood vessels going into the legs, but you'll deal with that later. Okay? So that's pretty much how you should have this. Again, you want doorways open this way. Keep that umbilical cord intact. You're going to open up the doors this way, breaking a lot of ribs. Don't be scared. It's okay. Okay? And you'll break that all open. You want to get full exposure. You might need to cut up a little thing and tweak things up so that you have a bigger exposure in the chest area. Okay, we'll dissect all that. All right, so I'm hoping that's going to work out for you guys.